Now, moving on, the National Communications Authority, NCA sanctions are threatening the jobs of hundreds. This is according to the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, GIBA, who made their complaint in a statement released recently. The NCA revoked the authorization of some stations, while others were fined for committing various infractions pertaining to their authorizations to operate as contained in Section 13 of the Electronic Communications Act 2009 Act 775. In all, the authority is owed 1,223,790,000 Ghana cedis by some 76 commercial and community radio stations across the country. The GIBA statement expressed alarm at the effects of the sanctions on the stations and added they will be meeting today to discuss common ground and a way forward with the matter. We have with us in the studio to go further into this the Vice President of GIBA, Ernest Boateng. Also with us in the studio is Kofi Lawe. He speaks for the Community Radio Network. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, so, Mr. Boateng, let me begin with you. The NCA is enforcing a law, like I stated, the Electronic Communications Act. You are saying it's harsh. Why?
Well, I think they did not give the stakeholders the opportunity, because if you look at the same law that they are citing, and let me read it here, it says that where the authority decides to suspend or revoke a license, they will give the licensee the authorization to present its views to remedy the breach which has occasioned the suspension or the fine, and then to submit to the authority within a specified time a written statement of objections, and it goes on and on and on and on. Now, I believe that all these were not applied. And so, in our view, it's quite harsh. It is rash, in my view. And so we, as a body, we are meeting today to discuss and also try and engage the stakeholders, the NCA, as well as the government, on ways that we can come to a common ground. Yes, we are not saying that the NCA should not do its job, but it should be fair for everybody involved. Now, you quoted an amount of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. That, in my view, it's laughable, for lack of a better word, because these are fines, and there is no clarity as to how these fines were computed. And some of the fines, 61 million for some stations, 56 here and there. We all know the state of the industry, and it's not possible to meet those fines. So, in effect, you have shut the door to these stations ever coming back. And we believe that these are harsh sanctions. Also, if you look at, it's also created a lot of uncertainty, in the industry, because we do not know how the next sanctions are going to be applied. And also for the employees of these companies, I mean, what should they do now? Because yes, they are going to appeal, they are going to take all these measures to make sure that they try to come back. But in the meantime, what do they do?
So let's take the issue of fairness that you raised. The NCA mentioned that they served letters to most of these stations, if not all, that this is your level of indebtedness, you would have to settle them.
Yes, and some of the stations, I believe, also wrote back to the NCA and tried to find ways to settle the indebtedness, and they were told to wait. And then the next thing they find out is that, yes, this is how much you owe, or your license has been revoked. How fair is that?
On that point, let me come to Mr. Kofi Lawe. You represent the Community Radio Network.
Yeah.
I believe you have members who have also been sanctioned.
Yeah, we have members. 11 members of our network are affected. And we are not just talking of industry or employment.
Yes.
We are talking about the very existence of communities. You see, if you want to take the life out of a people, if you want to take the identity out of a people, you make them not to speak their language. We are talking of community radio stations, communities who have turned radio into their way of being literate, because their voices can be recorded and played using local languages. They become partakers in national life. So if you say a community radio station should not operate, you see, when you are talking of language loss, for example, you are asking that the people should not exist. It is not just the language that is lost, it is also the people. So for us, it is the very existence of our people. What makes Ghana Ghana is the variety, the different languages and people that come together. And so when decisions of this nature are going to be taken, I think people need to sit down and look at what will happen as a result of this action. If we are able to tell and get the satisfaction that, oh, it will help the national cause, then we take it.
So what has happened to your members as a result of this action?
They think, first and foremost, that NCA has not taken all the routes that traditionally we talk of the normal way of doing things administratively, but we also have what we learn from home, so that it is not everything that you come out with this kind of information. You make people feel that, hey, what is happening here? The very confidence of the people in their radio stations, the trust that they have, we are putting doubts.
So how should they have dealt with the case?
We have normal ways of dealing with the NCA. I mean, GCR and the Ghana Community Radio Network has been asking for meetings with them. We have met them in the past, and we intend to meet them again. At least I would have maybe opted for a situation where the network is invited. Hey, you have always been talking for your members. There is this challenge. We will want you to get involved. Or the challenge is that we have been doing it, and this is the point, this is the action we want to take. And then we can help. We are there to help.
I want you to, Mr. Boasing, I'll be coming to you in a minute, but I want you, Mr. Lawe, to in a minute tell me about one of these stations which has been sanctioned. Tell us that story.
Well, we have so many stations. We are talking of Bulsa in Sandema. We are talking of Brezi in Ajumako Besianse. But let me go to Lom at Bumpurugu. You see, Lom is being asked. I think there are two issues there. That when they were given authorization, they did not come on air at the right time. We are talking of 2012. And there are records to prove what I'm saying. That I don't think for all the stations, all the steps that needed to be taken before the sanctions applied have been taken. Now, this station was authorized to come on air July 2012. They came on air in November 2012. Okay, the same year. Then they paid their fees up to 2015. So yes, there is default, and they were reminded. So they went to the regional office, and it's good that NCA has decentralized. Otherwise, it used to be leaving all that place to come to Accra. They went to the regional office in Bolga, and they were told, oh, because it is you are in default, pay directly to the national. And so they left Bumpurugu, traveling all that distance of 16 hours to Accra.
What was the debt they had to settle?
They were told they did not come on air at the speculated time.
And then, so what was the amount of money that they had to pay?
Okay, 1,280 Ghana.
Okay, so they came to Accra to pay that
for
amount.
the 2 years. That's 2016, 2017, and then the payment was already on the by bankers draft. So they presented it, and they were expecting a reply. it was first of all not accepted at the regional level, and so they brought it to Accra. And they are now waiting to hear from Accra, only to be found that they are part of this. And so they are at a loss exactly what's happening. But
so
we believe in dialogue.
What's their new fine? What have they? Is it so the same 1,280 they have to pay?
No. They counted a certain number of days. I think each day is 1 million. Is that? Yeah, something like that. And so there was this multiplication, and they are supposed to pay quite a heavy amount of money. So I'll just cross-check the figures involved, and then.
So basically, it's a burden they cannot.
It's a burden, and we are talking.
Mr. Boateng.
Just a minute. We are talking of. I mean, for those who know Bumprugu, you are talking of a community at the borders with Burkina Faso, and for the past almost 8-10 years, we know there have been upheavals. As we speak, there is. A security detachment there, police, army. The place is always having some chieftaincy and some. So the radio is there to manage this conflict, to help the security agencies to maintain the peace. Okay, so if you slap this on them, and this station also have had its equipment bent. I mean, there was a disaster 2 years back. And so for some time they were not on air.
So it all compounds the issues they have. In fact, I'm sure there are lots more issues we could go into. But Mr. Boateng, this question is really for the both of you, but I'll give it to you because the simplest thing, and again, a case in point is Radio Loan. They had to settle a debt of less than 1,280 cedis. Their debts now would run into tens of thousands. Why don't you just comply by the law, settle the fees on time? None of this would have happened.
It's not about complying. I think, like he said, some tried and they were not able to, for one reason or another, due to certain inefficiencies.
After they received letters from NCA.
Absolutely.
After they had allowed the time to elapse.
No, but still, I mean, at the end of the day, some actually went to NCA. They tried to engage NCA to try and settle, and they were told to wait. You understand? They were told to wait, only to be told for them to receive this notification that your license has either been revoked or you owe tens of thousands of cedis of fines or millions of fines, which for some of these stations, there's no way they will be able to pay. So at the end of the day, even the telcos, the big telcos, sometimes they do owe, you see, and that's why it's stated specifically here that if the authority decides to take a certain action, and permit me to read it again, they will allow the licensee to present its views, to remedy the breach, and then submit to the authority within a specified time period. So the law allows for all these things. So the fact that you owe doesn't mean that immediately they should slap this sanction on you, which in the belief of Giba and most of the people in the industry, it's unfair.
The Media Foundation for West Africa, and I was just reading the comments of the executive director, Suleiman Abrahima, just before coming on air. He described this as media galamsey, people who are on air and they are not giving their due to the NCA.
That is an unfair statement, because if you go back to the NCA website, okay, all these stations are duly authorized. And when you go back to their website, as far back, just recently in 2016, the stations, a lot of the stations that have been, whose licenses have been revoked, and their names are on there as authorized to operate stations that are recognized by the NCA as duly and what's the word I'm looking for?
You can
legitimate stations. So you can't equate it to what is medium galamsey.
But if you,
I mean,
if you are doing something, if you are doing something at the moment, that makes it, because some of these people were operating without authorizations. They no longer had the basis to even broadcast in the first place. They were working.
No, but then the NCA should have been more vigilant in clamping down on those stations. You know, instead of taking a broad stroke brush which impacts. I mean, like, you know what he's saying. There are certain stations that should not be critical. Yeah, and should not be suspended or should not have these their licenses revoked or these.
Should it rather not be the responsibility of the state stations to comply by the law rather than saying the NCA should have been more proactive in years back?
No, but it's the responsibility of each individual station. But by the same token, if the NCA during the elections, when the NCA recognized that certain stations were maybe broadcasting certain information which they felt was against the state interest, they would turn them off. And they have the ability to do that, to damn their signals and to turn them off. So this is not an excuse in my view.
You're telling us something. You're telling us something very new. I'd love to explore that. But Mr. Lawe, I'm sure you have a few thoughts on this.
Sure.
Why not obey the law?
No, we are not saying we will be the first to maybe applaud any Ghanaian national or local institution standing up to do or perform its task. I mean, a typical example is if the district assemblies were up and running, doing what they should do, we'll be so glad and they will not be maybe overshadowed by political parties here and there. Now, NCA is doing its work. We don't fault them. What we are saying that you don't throw the bath water and the baby away. We know that the baby is important. So how do we manage? Take the water out and then still have the baby so that we all work together. That the issue is, I mean, is it the death washing that is more important than the baby? So for us, we think that a lot more could be done. And we take it that this is a wake-up call that, we have something to discuss with you. We don't have time, so we are inviting you through maybe a slap of a fine. We are going to sit down with them. They have never rejected invitation to sit either at our designated place or at their offices. So we will be engaging them. We are actually, because communication with our stations at times also not the best, we are now compiling what exactly each station's situation is like and then engage NCA over it. And we know they will listen to us.
Well, that leads me into what I want to know next, and I'll be coming to Mr. Boating on that. What are the options you are considering, especially since you have a council meeting, I understand, today?
Right. Well, again, what we have a council meeting, after which we will come to a decision. But at the end of the day, we want to engage NCA as well as other stakeholders in this matter and make sure that we come to an agreeable solution. Now, let me say that NCA is trying to do its job, but we want to make sure that, and we are also in support of a sanitized broadcasting environment. It's very, very important, but it has to be fair and equitable for all parties involved. So after the council meeting, we will come out with a statement, a joint statement, which will map out the way forward.
Would one of those options be legal action, since you've recognized some infractions of the law on the side of the NCA?
Let's finish the council meeting before, I don't want to preempt anything.
I think it doesn't want to bite the finger that is using feeding. Okay.
Well, but if you feel like the law has been broken, it's just a question anyway. Yeah. It's just a question anyway. Okay.
I mean, I didn't say that the law has been broken. I'm just
saying that you pointed out to aspects of the law.
I said certain due processes were not followed,
which are spelled out in the law. So I mean, it's only fair to say that's the inference you're making. But let me take your final words on both counts, Mr. Lawe.
Yeah, I think Ghana has come a long way. the system most often is not supportive of development efforts. We don't have broadcast law here in Ghana. Talk of freedom of, access to information, nil. And there are very serious challenges when it comes to making sure that community radio stations really do their work very well. We are so few. We have had cause to even report to NCA that there are some stations that they have on their books as community. They should cross-check again. We're working with them, and we think we have a lot more to do together, and we should not look at maybe a fine as a way of inviting us to another.
So you think that they just find you to invite you to another?
It is better to take it that way than to sit up and think that we have officials out there who are thinking of closing community radio stations.
So in your view, the fine was just to invite you?
Yes, it is to invite us, not it
to negotiate.
yeah. because we are also saying that yes, we have some new faces out there that we'll have to sit down, meet, and hold discussions with them. Yeah.
Mr. Watson, your final words.
Well, I think what I want to tell all the affected parties is that they should remain calm. We are going to aggressively engage the NCA, the communications minister, as well as all the stakeholders and the people who control and legislate for us, and make sure that we come to a fair and equitable conclusion. But like you're saying, if you owe dues, you have to pay. It's very, very important.
Exactly,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I must say, just to end this, someone said that when governments waged the war against Galamsey, people started crying for Galamseyers. When government started free SHS and headmasters were taking fees, they were sanctioned, people started crying for the headmasters. Now the NCA is out taking its money. People are crying for radio stations. I don't know if you think it's equated, but
I seriously don't think it's the same.
Well, anyway,
it's far from the truth.
You've addressed Suleiman Abrahim's point. So anyway, thank you very much. Mr. Ernest Boateng, the Vice President of the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, Kofi Lawe, speaks for the Ghana Community Radio Network. Thank you very much.